This is episode 2 of 2. If you missed the first part, please check out last week's episode.
Welcome to the 1CA podcast. This is your host, Jack Gaines. 1CA is a product of the Civil Affairs Association and brings in people who are current or former military, diplomats, development officers, and field agents to discuss their experiences on ground with the partner nation's people and leadership. Our goal is to inspire anyone interested in working the last 3 feet of foreign relations. To contact the show, email us at capodcasting@gmail.com or look us up on the Civil Affairs Association website at www.civilaffairsassoc.org. I'll have those in the show notes.
For sure, and I think that also gets back to Compo 3, because we just stay on our positions a little bit longer. There's not as much churn as the active component sees.
True.
We're able to build these relationships, right? It could be as simple as a phone call or a text or WhatsApp to a partner in the Philippines, a partner in Palau, like, hey, how's it going? And that's meaningful. It goes a long way, and I think it goes further than a lot of people think. Just checking in, keeping that relationship top of mind.
And I understand these missions go well beyond that, actually giving medical treatment, helping set up hospitals and clinics, building out governance capacity. And I'm sure you can give the audience many other examples of stuff your team's been involved in.
Yeah, for sure. We have 3 team members right now in the Philippines. So we have our ag business team, 38 Golf, 6 uniforms.
Hey.
So they're experts in ag business. And within that group, we have a veterinarian who's working some animal husbandry issues in the Philippines. And we have some soil experts working with the Filipinos to increase yield. I'm not entirely sure what the crop is, but that's important and that's really meaningful.
Absolutely.
There's been an interesting mission regarding art repatriation. I don't want to get too deep into it, but there was some art looted.
Monuments Men.
So we have a 6 Victor cohort, heritage and preservation. There was some art that was looted during World War II that belongs to Okinawa. The art was discovered in the Boston area. Very long story short, we've repatriated it. And this is across all the KCOMs. This was driven by use of KPOC. But we are sending a practitioner back next week for the repatriation ceremony. The artist landed in a museum in Okinawa, and the people there are excited to have this art come back. The FBI Arts Crime Division has been involved with this, the Air Force, and a host of others. And we're also sending teams back to Palau and the Marshall Islands to work on CTIP. That's countering trafficking in persons. That is a very important issue for both these countries. I would put Micronesia in there as well to complete the 3 COVID nations.
Yeah.
But we send our lawyers there to talk the legalities of what CTIP is, how to prevent it. And we'll get down to local law enforcement strategies, things like that. But the CTIP training resonates with the people of these countries.
Absolutely. This is very visible. It touches lives. It builds relationships. And when you look at business strategy, it's also a barrier to entry for our adversaries because they can't easily replicate those missions, can they?
I'm glad you mentioned that. We are choosing to engage where our adversaries are choosing not to engage.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Outstanding. Let's talk a little bit more about United Action Partners. Part of that shaping I was talking about earlier is going to be building their capacity and capability, not only to inoculate them from mis and disinformation, but to help them weather the effects of climate change and build resiliencies so that they're less vulnerable to adversary coercion and many other things that can come their way. Now, I know you've been heavily involved in this, both publicly and privately. I'm just going to make a wild guess that some of the things that we would have to do if we wanted to continue to build those UAP relationships, we have to start at home. We have to get us the right expertise. There just aren't enough 38 Golfs to go around, as you mentioned, but we can expand the capability because the 38 Golfs we do have are well-known and can help us foster constructive relationships and agreements with places like University of Fresno, which has amazing agriculture school, a number of things, Texas A&M, very wide set of sciences there that could be made available to us. And once we have that kind of expertise behind the 38 Golf teams, Then we're able to expand into many of the relief opportunities that community has going in humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, which sadly is a growing business. There's more disasters than ever, every year it seems, ever greater needs that need to be filled. And then finally, it culminates in full-on bolstering of those foreign partners. Whether that could lead to ABO or anything else is open for debate, but it seems to me that the benefits are many. Now, what do you think about this? From your experience, how should we be going about building up our United Action partners?
The way I'll answer this is to frame it against our portfolio mission set. And these are the mission sets we use to amplify the value proposition of the team and our stabilizing impact. So if I'm going to do anything before I leave uniform, one thing is evolve our partnership with USAPAC, U.S. Army Pacific Security Cooperation Division,
Amen.
Specifically to drive our inclusion in campaign plan tasking mechanism. This is a challenge. We have been able to support Army Service Component Commands, 1st Corps and 8th Army. We have been active working with them, but our portfolio of mission sets, there's 6 or 7 of them. Women, peace, and security is important to us. The innovative readiness training we discussed previously, the disaster response exercises in exchange, the DREES, great opportunity. We have a 38 Gulf 5 Yankee that's an emergency management expert. It's an opportunity to deploy those individuals. Our civil control lawfare programs, like the attorney working CTIP issues across COFA, we have really found tremendous value using our ILOs, or international law officers, to run trainings. And then I'm going to take this to the three-legged stool. When we're at home, not in Mountain View, the analytic capacity to do country vulnerability assessments, providing a think tank-like service. We've done so recently for 1st Corps, for USAPAC. That is something that the 38 Gulfs can immediately get around and get a deliverable out within the constraints of a battle assembly weekend. Found some value there. You were talking about the university partnerships, so supporting and advancing USACAPOC's partnership with academia and industry. That's the reach back capability that just really expands what the Gulfs can do.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Fresno State, Texas A&M. We have bound by MOUs. Money's not exchanging hands. It's, codified in tech. But we have MOUs with Notre Dame, Rice University, University of Wisconsin-Madison, the Milwaukee Water Council, and the Smithsonian. And we're working on others. But the reach back that those university partners give us, it's tremendous.
And not only the knowledge that represents, but I can only imagine the social and political networks that come with those field experts. You want to open doors, you want to get through bureaucracy, you want to get something done. That just sounds like an amazing resource.
It's huge. As a matter of fact, University of Wisconsin-Madison is hosting an event for our natural resources folk, and it'll be in the Madison area later this May. We have civil affairs practitioners really coming across the enterprise. Active duty sending some. Compo 3 is going to make up the lion's share of the attendees. But it's important, and it's a way for the universities as well, that relationship with civil affairs. It unlocks corporate money for them, which is important, and that's money we can also use to conduct trainings and then potentially deploy university partners, experts in their own right, obviously, to engagements overseas.
I want to put on my mad scientist hat here for a moment. Looking at this expertise that's aligned, looking at the complexity of the worldwide mission we have to conduct, which is progressively an urbanized space, and recognizing that there's a capability gap, not just a resource gap, but a capability gap here.
Sure.
The answer should be experimentation, right? And development of new capabilities through total army analysis or small business innovation research, the various opportunities, grant writing, et cetera, that are out there. So looking at experimentation, I think one of the most important things we need to figure out how to do, and not just for the Army, but for the Department of Defense, for the military, and for our military partners as well, is we're very good at achieving tactical success on the battlefield. We win most engagements that we fight. challenge is achieving strategic objectives. Strategic success is a little bit more elusive. So it's kind of like we play chess and we take a lot of pieces, but we don't get checkmate oftentimes, it seems. And so we spend a lot of the time and energy getting all those pieces off the board. But at the end of the day, if we don't get that strategic win, it calls some of that sacrifice into question. That's why years ago, I was very excited when the Department of Defense stood up and funded the Army Futures Command, or AFC.
Sure.
I waited for about a year for them to get going. And then I called up a friend that you and I both know, an 06, won't mention his name on the air. And I asked him, okay, I said, hey, can you tell me a little bit about, all this funding we see? Can you tell me what portion of that is reserved for less than lethal capabilities and experimentation? Now, I still remember his response to this day. That's either really good or really bad, right? He turned to me, he says, Brian, 95% of everything we work on in Army Futures Command is instantly lethal.
Yep.
Okay. But given their enormous budget, I didn't give up, sir. I was still excited by this because I realized that 5% remaining actually amounted to probably 10 times the entire budget of use of KPOC. So I was very excited by this. So then I tried to ask him, how do I get access to that 5% that's been allocated for non-lethal capabilities? And the colonel raised his hand and he says, hold on there. The remaining 5% is reserved for the laser that guides the bomb that kills you. I was just so deflated. I was so deflated when I heard that. Now, that was years ago. And I suspect that this 06 was, using a little bit of hyperbole, of course, when he was explaining all this. But fast forward to today, I know you've been working with Army Futures Command. You've got a number of initiatives underway and in some promising initiatives there. Is this still the case? Do we still have a huge resource gap in the R&D pipeline, at least as far as AFC goes, to develop these critical capabilities we need for competition? Is that so? And if it is so, why do you think that remains the case?
And that's a great question. And before I get to it, I do want to share that this past Friday, I had the opportunity to see Admiral Craven speak at the University of Texas. So, he's a former chancellor at UT back 2014, 2015.
Hokum.
And as we all know, he is the consummate, been there, done that guy.
Yeah.
Throughout his military career. What's interesting, and I don't think a lot of people know this, Army Futures Command is here in Austin, as are the 7 defense X organizations. So think AFWorks, NavWar, DIU, Defense Innovation Unit. But Admiral McCraven, when he was at UT as chancellor, he was a big part of what got Futures Command to Austin, not necessarily standing it up. I think that was already in play, but getting that 4-star command here into Central Texas. But to get to your question, I think one of the greatest threats to national security seems to be the utter lack of appreciation and ability to adapt to other cultures and build partner capacity. Who is workshopping people operations, cultural adaptation, informal network building, and partner force collaboration?
Right.
Everything that we're talking about, call it winning without fighting. Civil affairs is getting after it kind of ad hoc. Futures Command is not right now. And my challenge to Futures Command is they need to look harder and consider a cross-functional team dedicated to the human terrain.
Right.
I think that's the answer. It doesn't have to be a full-blown cross-functional team. I get it. Civil affairs isn't like future vertical lift, nano, precision fires, but I think there should be some money apportioned to what is incredibly important. We are working some initiatives. We have them cooking with the Army Applications Lab. So that's the lab portion or branch of Futures Command. It's a little too early to reveal what we're trying to do, but just having proximity, whether it's the 95th CE Brigade, the CA proponent, having proximity to Futures Command to talk, some of these things I think is incredibly important. And that's what we're hoping to advance. And I will share with you and here for the podcast, back in school at the University of Texas, Hokum, the LBJ School of Public Affairs.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Be careful what you wish for.
Uh-oh.
But my capstone is tackling exactly this. Would Futures Command consider some sort of cross-functional team, again, cross-functional team like dedicated to Army CA?
Right.
So I'll put it in writing. We'll see where it goes.
I hope so. In the past, I've had those conversations with the civil affairs proponents. The reality is their budget is small and they're very focused on tactical soft missions.
Sure.
The project was of a magnitude larger than they could tackle at the time. I certainly hope that that bears fruit. When we think about it, winning a battle isn't too difficult, but when you want to win a war, and, I'm not sure what our national defense budget is up to now, something like $850 billion, the single largest, most discretionary part of the budget.
Right.
And for that price tag, we certainly want to win wars when we engage them. And the reality is that unless you are able to defeat the will of your adversaries so that they effectively give up, because there's so many asymmetrical capabilities, so many powerful small weapons these days, unless you defeat that will, which exists in the human space, not outer space, you're never going to get there. You're never going to get there. And we need to invest in that. We need to understand that. I'm reminded of H.R. McMaster's book, Dereliction of Duty, which I'm going through a second time now. And he talked about the Ivy League thinking that was happening in LBJ's administration at that time, where they assumed that the North Vietnamese had the same mental models, the same penchant for risk, were the same type of rational actor as Americans were, and they could, through the fallacy of mirroring, which we try and avoid in intelligence, which is assuming the enemy is just like us and will respond as we think they will or as we would, and they think as we think, they continued this policy of graduated pressure, oblivious to the fact that the enemy's penchant for risk was off the chart relative to ours, and that their commitment to communist revolution and ideals was what was shaping everything for them. And there was no understanding or effort to understand that. And you know what happened in Vietnam, of course, the results were disastrous. So how do we avoid that again? Will AFC help us, sir, or are you going to have to go out and start a private consulting company and we'll tackle it from that angle?
The private consulting company is always in the cards. So 2014, 15, the CA proponent, they were working on something interesting. It was the IMSG, the Institute for Military Security Governance. And it kind of went back by the wayside. We're looking to potentially dust that off. And there's a lot of good stuff in IMSG, and that may be a foot in the door to get closer to Futures Command.
I certainly hope so. I know that TRADOC OEC, which has had some capabilities in this space, has been downsized a little bit. So definitely a little bit concerned with the future, not pessimistic on the future, but definitely concerned. We can correct the course if we can raise the message to the right audience. And I'm hoping through our combined efforts, we'll eventually get there. We've got a few minutes left. I did want to talk a little bit more about the functional specialty teams. Many of the people dialing in or listening in have access either through Reachback or they're in civil affairs formations themselves and can, reach out and touch some FXSP members and interact with 38 Golfs. Let's talk best practices. How can they best employ their 38 Golfs and their functionally specialty? Just for one quick example, back to 2020, at that time, you and I did some experimentation actually, where we took the PhD level expertise that you had sitting in the FXSP, and I took myself and some of our civil analytics people sitting in the civil information management team, and we created a fusion organization. And in that situation, the functional specialty teams, they collected all the relevant mission data because of their expertise and ability to know where to look and how to capture that. And then they analyzed and categorized it using their subject matter analysis and expertise. We then took it in the SIM team, we normalized it, combined it with other data sets to make the N larger. performed some quantitative analysis, and then ended up producing some data visualizations that were designed for military decision makers, which highlighted, progress, managed critical information requirements, mission end states, et cetera. And we tested this together in Impact 2020, and it seemed to work out pretty well. So that's one way that FXSPs can't be utilized in conjunction with a SIM or a CKI cell. But that was a few years ago. You've been at this business for a while. What are some of your other recommendations to the community on how they can effectively employ their FXSP formations to maximize that return on investment?
I'm glad you brought up Impact 2018. That was like a distant dream, but it was pretty exciting working with you and seeing the 351 deploy at that scale to Fort Island. I think it was a resounding success.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I hate to say it, what we become good at within the 351 that I think sets us apart is we are good at spending other people's money.
Awesome.
So if you want to engage the FXSP, if you have a customer that comes with money, irrespective of what the need is, the fact that travel can be covered, that's significant. Like I said, I hate to mention that, but it is the reality that we currently operate under.
But it's still a win-win, though, because when you calculate the return on investment relative to the input dollars, I think it's pretty clear folks are getting their money on what they're spending. They're buying quality. I mean, the work I'm seeing from functional specialists is being printed in Military Review. I mean, this is the top journal in the country for military experts.
Yeah, the return on investment is there, and we're chasing those that have money. There's a couple of interesting things that we're working on now.
Mm-hmm.
The portfolio items that I listed previously, most of that does come with lines of accounting, and that's what we need in order to travel. We always own the annual training, but we're looking for those travel dollars. But as of late this year, through Defense Security Cooperation Agency, through Institute for Security Governance, those folks have a need to bring 38 Gulfs downrange with them. So ISG, I think, is under the umbrella of the Naval Postgraduate School. And through ISG, there's some things that we're going to try to do.
Right.
Think swimming peace and security, think governance. There may be some commerce involved. Bring a Gulf in a support capacity to help with those experts as a block of instruction is delivered.
Yeah.
I think an exciting potential engagement for us. I was on a call last week with a CA proponent. The 95th CA Brigade was on the call, and all the supported battalions through what's called Section 333. It's an authority that the active duty CAS has access to. It's going to be a building partner capacity type play, but it enables them to potentially reach out to Western Forces and bring whatever that flavor of 38 Gulf is that they need, bring them with them. And what's been a challenge for the active component is accessing Compo 3. So we try to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
The rules and regulations behind the Army Reserve, if you're not in it, it is just confusing. You got 15 days of AT, you can't do this, you can't do that. But if we can make it easy for them, hey, call Hughes, call Hancock. We need somebody for 2 or 3 days, probably longer than that. We need somebody for some stretch of time, less than 15 days, to go downrange and engage in whatever their area of expertise is. That's attractive to the active component. We make it even easier for them. We're talking passports, theater entry. Those are pipeline requirements that our Gulfs have to have met, right? To be considered, we call it readiness level 1, meaning you are ready to go out the door.
Right.
You've got to have all that stuff ready to go. If we get the call from the 97th in our case, and in Indo-PACOM, we need somebody in Papua New Guinea with some of the 38 Sierra governance officers, we're ready to go. So I think if we can get there with them, it could be interesting.
I can't wait. Not only is that an amazing offer to our active Compo 1 forces and to the host nation and to the country teams and the other players that are involved. And I know many of us have worked for some of these NGOs as well that are on the ground and have good relationships there as well. Sure. A win across the board. But this is also exciting for civil affairs soldiers. When you're at the water cool after coming back from doing reserve duty, what does the average reservists going to talk about, and then compare it to what the folks on your team can talk about, right? It just seems like a great high impact way to do time in the military.
And it's a talent management tool for sure.
Yeah. Okay, just a couple minutes left. I'd like to end by just talking a little bit more about the developments within the 38 Gulf, kind of where we are with that program. Years ago, when it started, there was no direct commission program. And honestly, there wasn't a really good progression pyramid for folks coming in mid or perhaps even early in their military career to serve a whole career and have a progression path to keep moving forward within that space. Now, I understand there's been some changes. Can you just update the community? Where is the 38 Golf program today? I'm sure there's many folks who've listened to the types of things that your team does who'd be interested in joining. Where is that program today? And how can folks who are interested in this join this exciting career field?
And Brian, jump in if you want me to expound on anything here. So there are currently 3 ways to enter the program. You can branch transfer, and that's what I did. I was a career conventional Army aviator, felt the pull into CA and generated a 38 Golf packet. I was boarded, and then I branch transferred into civil affairs. So we get a lot of folks that way. Again, they're already in uniform, and they're coming from other branches. An exciting development is we are now starting to commission enlisted members who may have an advanced degree, and they're going to receive a commission as a captain, assuming they successfully negotiate the So that is a great opportunity, enlisted members. And we've just seen several get made. I think 1 or 2 as of late.
Right.
And then I think what's exciting for this audience is the direct commission program. So there are experts out there. And I like to say we're looking for unicorns, titans of industry, people that can really make a difference. They're great Americans, and they're coming in off the street. They're receiving a commission as a captain, but based on what kind of degrees you hold and things like that, you could come in as a major or even a lieutenant colonel. Only seen major, but lieutenant colonel is not out of the realm of the possible. But what's interesting, though, is those folks come in, they still have to be willing. Now you're part of the Army. There's some non-negotiable trainings that you have to go through. We call it the direct commission course. That's 6 weeks at Fort Benning, and then a host of other things to get you mission ready. But we want those unicorns, those folks that want to give back, come in as a 38 Golf and truly make a difference. And I really want to stomp this again. I mentioned the power of the network. I think we're bringing in experts, but we're also bringing in their network.
Right.
For example, I'm a 38 Golf Foxtrot. I'm a transportation officer. I can engage in aviation operations. I can talk about risk, revenue, and safety. Do I know a lot about road, rail, or maritime infrastructure? No, but I know who to call.
Right.
And
just in time.
That's what's important. Yeah, it's that network.
Right.
So we're leveraging as a 38 Golf program broadly the respective networks across the cohort, and that's really what gives us power. And a last thing I wanted to mention here is I think it's helpful for Golfs coming in to think of themselves as, it's almost like the warrant officer, if you will. So warrant officers in aviation or working intelligence systems, they're kind of just doing one thing, right? That's their military track. And I think that's although nobody really says it, I think that's the intent behind the Golf program, right? You're coming in as an energy expert.
Right.
That's kind of what you're going to do throughout your career. And I think if you come at it with that frame of mind, that's helpful.
Right. I especially think some of those senior people that you were alluding to, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's not a lot of places in the Army where those more senior folks who are patriotic, who want to have an adventure. We live so long with modern medicine. Most folks have 3 whole careers now. This is an opportunity, for those folks. Yeah. I'm getting a little bit older. And one of the reasons I do the podcast is because I have a desire. I've been spending my whole life accumulating knowledge and experience. I figure at least 2% of it's useful. I want to give it back. I want to give it back to the community.
Right.
Those folks that you mentioned would be willing to as well. And we bumped into, congressmen and other folks that we work with in civil affairs who were attracted to that. So depending on where you are at your walk in life, don't look at yourself and say, well, I'm over 40. I couldn't possibly join the military. Well, that's not true at all. There are opportunities for those who want to serve the nation and who want to serve the people of the world, because we go out and to where they are, persistent forward, helping them in their native environment. And I think ultimately we probably learn more than they do from that exchange, but it is an awesome thing to do. And I will tell you that our pacing threat, the Chinese, they don't fear our military so much. They have a plan to deal with that. It may not be tomorrow, but what they absolutely cannot replicate and are always concerned about is our ability to build alliances, to build partnerships, to make friends. People want to work with us. And the 38 Golf program is part of that ambassadorial flow.
Well said.
So I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Hey, Lieutenant Colonel Hancock, I appreciate your time today. It was fun to reminisce about some of the things that we did together from IRT in 2020, and then who can forget RIMPAC 2018? Those were good times for sure, but truly appreciate your time. And please know, and for the audience, the 38 Golf program is really, I'm passionate about it. I think it moves the needle for Army Reserve Civil Affairs, and it's truly an important program.
Thank you very much for your time, Colonel Hughes. Really appreciate you coming on and giving the audience some information that is in high demand. I know we'll be hearing from you again, hopefully when you pin your first star. I pray for that, and luck, you'll be moving forward and more positioned to be able to shape some of these things that we talked about. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye. See ya.
Thanks for listening. If you get a chance, please like and subscribe and rate the show on your favorite podcast platform. Also, if you're interested in coming on the show or hosting an episode, email us at capodcasting@gmail.com. I'll have the email and CA Association website in the show notes. And now, most importantly, to those currently out in the field, working with a partner nation's people or leadership to forward U.S. relations, thank you all for what you're doing. This is Jack, your host. Stay tuned for more great episodes. 1CA Podcast.